Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel. And today I'm going to go my review of WCW's Uncensored 1996. Starting off the evening, we're going to go to our first match of the night. It is for the WCW United States Heavyweight Championship. It is Eddie Guerrero versus Conan. I thought this was a good match to start Uncensored 1996. Back and forth matchup between Guerrero and Conan, with Guerrero keeping the pace of the match. Guerrero quickly applies a figure-4 leg lock on Conan, but Conan quickly breaks the hold. Conan then applies an ankle lock on Guerrero, but Guerrero breaks the hold. Guerrero then hits a Hurricane Rana off the top rope on Conan. Conan then hits a springboard arm drag on Guerrero. Guerrero then hits a head scissors on Conan. Conan then hits a powerbomb on Guerrero for a near fall, with Conan ultimately hitting a low blow on Guerrero. Referee doesn't see it. Conan goes for the cover, pins for the 3. And your winner of the match, and at that time still WCW United States Heavyweight Champion, is Conan. Hats off to Conan for getting the win in that matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is Steven Regal versus the Belfast Bruiser. I thought this was a good matchup. Back and forth matchup between Regal and Bruiser, with Regal landing devastating European uppercuts on the Bruiser. Regal then was keeping the pace of the match. Bruiser then hit the knee drop on Regal. Robert Eaton and Dave Taylor make their way down to the ring. They attack the Belfast Bruiser. And your winner of the match by disqualification is the Belfast Bruiser. Hats off to the Belfast Bruiser for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is Medusa versus Colonel Parker. I thought this was an okay matchup. Back and forth matchup between Medusa and Parker, with Medusa keeping the pace of the match. Parker hits an airplane spin on Medusa. Medusa tries to counter it into a roll-up, but Colonel Parker ultimately hits a roll-up of his own on Medusa, pins her for the 3, and your winner of the match is Colonel Parker. Hats off to Colonel Parker for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is an I Quit match. It is DDP versus Brutus the Barber. I thought this was an okay matchup. Back and forth matchup between DDP and the Barber, with DDP keeping the pace of the match. But Brutus ultimately hits a high knee on DDP, pins him for the 3, and your winner of the match is Brutus the Barber. Hats off to the Brutus the Barber for getting the win in that matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is the Giant versus Loch Ness. I thought this was an okay matchup. Back and forth matchup between the Giant and Loch Ness, with Giant keeping the pace of the match. Giant ultimately hits a devastating leg drop on Loch Ness, pins him for the 3, and your winner of the match is the Giant. Hats off to the Giant for getting the win in that matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is a Chicago street fight. It is the Road Warriors versus Booker T and Sting. I thought this was a good matchup. Back and forth matchup between both teams, with Booker T and Sting keeping the pace of the match. Lex Luger and Stevie Ray attack what it looks like to be Animal backstage. Stevie Ray then hits Hawk with a chair shot. Booker T then goes for the cover, pins for the 3, and your winners of the match are Booker T and Sting. Hats off to Booker T and Sting for getting the win in that matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is the Doomsday Cage match. It is Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, Kevin Sullivan, Lex Luger, Ming, the Barbarian, and Z-Gangster, as well as Ultimate Solution, versus the Mega Powers, Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage. I thought it was a good matchup. Back and forth matchup between both teams, with the Alliance keeping the pace of the match. Lex Luger ultimately hits Ric Flair with a loaded glove. Randy then goes for the cover on Flair, pins for the 3, and your winners of the match are Hulk Hogan and the Macho Man Randy Savage. A couple of things I'm going to say about Uncensored 1996 before I get out of here, man. It was an okay card. At best, it was an okay card. Couple of matches on here, they were okay. I'll say that. I mean, Eddie Guerrero versus Conan was a great match for the United States Heavyweight Championship. It's always great to see Eddie Guerrero stepping, in the ring. Rest in peace to Eddie Guerrero. And Conan, man. Conan did a hell of a job defending that United States Heavyweight Championship, in my honest opinion. And I think Conan, as far as in-ring ability, is severely underrated. Steven Regal versus Belfast Bruiser. Besides Eddie Guerrero versus Conan, this was the match of the night for me, man. Regal and Belfast Bruiser, aka Fit Finlay, they beat the hell out of one another in that match, man. I mean, it was absolutely brutal. Um, it was a shame that Robert Eaton and Dave Taylor got involved in that matchup because Regal and the Belfast Bruiser, man, it was just a hell of a match. Hell of a match. Brutal match. Medusa and Colonel Parker, it was an okay matchup. I understand why they did it. Colonel Parker, seeing him trying to wrestle, man, was absolutely hilarious. DDP and Brutus the Barber, it was an okay match at best, man. I mean, I think DDP, his in-ring career got better as the years went on, in my honest opinion. The Giant versus the Loch Ness. It was an okay match, man. I think Loch Ness, from what I understand, was actually Haystacks Calhoun, if I'm not mistaken. A lot of people have, told me that it was Haystacks Calhoun who was Loch Ness in WCW. Obviously, his tenure in WCW didn't last that long. Giant winning this matchup against the Loch Ness would actually gave him a title opportunity, I believe, against Ric Flair the following night on Nitro. So, all in all, it was an okay match. The Street Fight, Road Warriors versus Booker T and Sting, it was an okay match at best. I thought the Road Warriors were going to pick up the victory, considering that it was a Chicago Street Fight. But unfortunately, with the attack backstage from Lex Luger and Stevie Ray on Road Warrior Animal, Booker T and Sting ended up picking up the victory in that match. And then we had the main event, the Doomsday Cage. To me, honestly, man, I'm not big on gimmick matches. I never really have been. And the way that this was set up, it was kind of like a triple cage. It was stacked all the way up, big cage and a small cage, and then a really tiny cage up top where Ric Flair and Arn Anderson were at the very top, and Hogan and Savage started from the top of the cage and worked their way down. I've never been a big fan of gimmick matches, man. I never really have. I was happy with the Mega Powers getting the win in this match, Hogan and Savage, but all in all, man, it was too much going on. And I'm, like I said, just me personally, my own personal preference, I'm not big on gimmick matches, but all in all, WCW Uncensored 1996 wasn't that bad of an event. With that being said, though, just like I do with every single one of these pay-per-views, I always give these pay-per-views a rating from 1 out of 10. I'm going to give WCW's Uncensored 1996 a solid rating of a 4.5 at best, man. But this is my review of WCW's Uncensored 1996. I hope you guys are out there staying safe, be careful, and remember, stay classic. Peace.